I'm one of your hosts, sitting not virtually next to my co-host, Joshua Crouch. We are at CEO Warrior headquarters in New Jersey, and I get the honor to speak with some really good friends of mine that I've grown to really know over the past several years, being a member of CEO Warrior. And watching the progression of adding services and the pain points of doing that. Some people like to do a whole lot of adding services at the same time, and other people just bring one or two of them on at a time. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We have a handful of guests we're going to swap out here, and just hear a little bit about your story, your growth, and the pain points and how you've kind of worked through them. Josh, you want to add anything?
No, this is great. So for people that don't know, this is actually where Tersh and I met for the first time. We'd known of each other for several years, and we actually met at a War Planet event a number of years ago. And that's kind of how it started on this journey. I started asking Tersh about podcasting, and here we are now, about 2.5 years later. So this is kind of cool. This is the last CEO War event in this building, so it's kind of neat. We're kind of wrap it all up here. But we're excited to talk with. We're going to start with Vince,
all right,
and kind of learn more about your story and your journey here over the last several years.
All right.
So
where
if you introduce
you want me to
yourself,
start at?
Who are you?
Birth?
Let's introduce yourself, your company.
Start at birth.
All right. Well, of course, I think you already know, but I joined CEO Warrior same time you did.
Yep.
Same event, a little over 4 years ago.
Where were you when you started? Like, what did that look like?
So at that time, I was strictly doing garage doors, and I hit the magic $1 million mark, and I thought, man, I'm killing it. You know.
How long did it take you to get there?
10 years.
10 years.
Started in 2008.
Okay.
And 10 years to get to 1 million. And I joined first year. I mean, really, in about 3 to 4 months, we tripled the company just because I was doing so many things the wrong way. I didn't know how to price things. I didn't really have a really defined sales process. So went home, we put that in play, and we were tracking for 3 million. I mean, within just a few months. And so then I came back to the next event. I was really, really gung ho, and I thought, I was looking around the room. I hear these guys talking about doing 5 million, 10 million, and I was like, man. And so I looked, a couple guys I brought with me, and I'm like, man. If I won't say what I really said, but I said, man, if these other people could
These
can
guys
do HVAC and plumbing, I know I could kill HVAC and plumbing. So, I made the decision that day. I'm going to go home and I'm going to start HVAC and plumbing when I get home. And of course, some of the advisors
How was that? Like, what was that experience like? How long of a process? How long did it take you to bring it on?
So the advisors at that time, when I told them what I was going to do, when I was building out my 90-day plan, they go, yeah, that's not going to happen. You're never going to do that in 90 days. And so I went home to basically prove them wrong. In 60 days, we had a plumbing and HVAC company. And I wasn't the most successful one at the beginning. A lot of growing pains there.
Like what kind of growing pains did you experience?
Well, I was under the number one mistake I made is I was under the assumption that if you had a license from the state that you actually knew how to do HVAC and plumbing. And that was a major misstep because I made some terribly bad hires.
So you hired guys that had a license.
Correct.
In HVAC, but they honestly didn't know what they were doing.
Correct. Yeah. And so, I mean, I used CEO Warrior process, and really what we've been doing in garage doors, similar operating process. Of course, they had no buy-in, to it, so that made it challenging. And then
how have you fixed that over time? Getting that buy-in from a guy.
Well, so really, I just every new manager that I brought in, I came to the events. I've been, the Service Business Live or whatever the current name for it. I think I've been to like 8 of them now, maybe 9, something like that.
Yeah.
And so every new manager that I had, I brought them in because that's the easiest way to introduce them to the world. to the CEO Warrior world, and sending a lot of guys to training. Tons and tons of training.
Is there a time where you've ever regretted sending people to training?
No, not really. You always get immediate results from it. I mean, when those guys and girls now that come back from Road Warrior, that was the primary one we went to initially, and I mean, you get an immediate bump from there, and then it's really up to you to make sure that it sticks.
Yeah.
Did you take any of that, especially from like the Road Warrior, because that gives you a process, right? It gives you something to guide the rest of your team that maybe hasn't been out, or your new hires? Have you taken that back?
I think the biggest thing about it, number one, the energy of being there, and it really gets them hyped up, and they see, okay, this really does work, and there's another 70 or 80 people here at the same time that are doing it, and when they come back, they're studs. I mean, for the first week, they're just burning it up. And
so what is it like, you being the business owner and garage doors are your background, and they're coming back as an HVAC or a plumbing technician? Like, did you learn HVAC and plumbing?
No, I still know very little about HVAC.
So how do you?
I can flush my toilet.
That's good. I mean, that's always a good thing. Put the toilet seat down.
I really like the no flush ones they have here.
All right, well, that's cool. So how do you, as a leader, lead someone that you don't necessarily like? Because a lot of business owners were technicians prior,
Right.
And a lot of times that's how we relate to the technicians is, okay, well, if you have a problem, call me on tech support. But you're not that guy.
No, and I don't. I mean, in garage doors, I know it. I can fix and diagnose pretty much anything over the phone for them. But I mean, I don't really have anything to even do with that portion of it anymore. It's really just about the numbers. And I mean, what I found on all of it is, the process of the checklist at the beginning of the job. I mean, that's the key to every single job we do. It really doesn't matter the trade. It's just a matter of, what's the line item on the checklist, and did you do it right? And then you just progress from there. So the checklist was the key component for us. Still is today. I mean, we harp on it. We still revise it a little bit.
Now, your
monthly.
checklist that you mentioned, are you talking? Is that a technical checklist, or is that like running the play as far as?
It's both, really.
Okay.
I mean, our checklist is it has questions that they must ask. It has measurements, or
Like what's the subcool superheat and all this
Yeah.
other stuff.
Excuse me?
Never mind.
Yeah, I don't even know.
I was going to say,
superheat. Like, is that when it's real hot outside?
Yeah, pretty much.
I know those words are on there. I really don't know what they mean.
Gotcha.
Do you think that's actually helped you not? Because then you weren't that arm that was always that tech support. Someone could always call you because
I
like
feel
you
like
had to lean on the rest
that's
of your
a struggle that a business owner that's been a
Yeah,
technician-
I mean, of course, it took me probably, I don't know, maybe a year before we finally got that really good tech guy in there.
How many do you think you went through in that time period?
A bunch. A
Bunch. That's
yeah. Well,
That's
I
a
mean,
lot.
and at the scale we're at now, it's not a bunch, but probably 8 or 10.
Yeah.
Guys before we finally got a small core of people. And plumbing it took years on plumbing. I mean, we finally do have a good core. I brought the new plumbing manager here this week, but plumbing, I've been through like 5 regimes of plumbing, but HVAC we got pretty well dialed in.
How
now.
have you had a technician who was a good technician but just didn't fit in Absolute?
So what's the question again? I'm sorry.
Have you had a technician who was technically like a strong technician, but didn't fit the rest of your culture?
Yeah, we've had several of those that were really technically very, very good technicians that really all they wanted to do is go do bare minimum fixes, because that's what typically mom and pop operations.
They didn't wanna
It's what I did in
provide
garage
options.
doors before I came here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, you think you're a fixer and you want to go out and fix,
Mhm.
and not even really understanding that you're really doing a disservice to your customer by doing that fix, and then it's going to break next year. It's going to break the following year. They're going to spend more money than
Or break in 90 days and it'd be a callback.
Right, absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah, you touched it, you own it.
Right.
Now you're an idiot, and you could be the greatest technician in the world, but you didn't really thoroughly diagnose the issue. So, I mean, that part of it. I mean, yeah, I had to rely on a couple people technically, but I mean, and the way the whole world's moving now with really all appliances, I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's your refrigerator. I had this conversation the other day. I'm like, I remember when I was 20 years old and we had a refrigerator that got handed down on probably 3 generations. I mean, this thing was like an old
That's
tank.
the one that you get stuck inside of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, you have to open it and defrost it. I mean, people don't even know what that is anymore. But I mean, that Joker's probably still running somewhere. I don't know. But now, it becomes more of an age thing. And once it's out of warranty, replace it.
Yeah.
Energy, and then the energy cost when you put that into it. I mean, I learned enough about the highlights of the selling of it, energy efficiency, and that portion of it. So that's really, I mean, when I'm looking at it, from the office, it's just really what's it going to cost to fix it? And
Do you ever come across the technicians who are very, tech savvy, and then you have a conversation with them, present options, make sure you present options on every call you go to, and they give you kickback saying, I'm not a salesman?
Oh, 100%. But I mean, we've redefined a little bit of that. We've taken a little more control over forcing that issue on every, I mean, they have to call in to project managers, to basically a higher authority in the company. And we verify that, that yes, you ran the checklist, and yes, that, that you built options. Because, I mean, we know that's, when they run that play, it's successful every single time. Our closing rates go up, they skyrocket. Our average tickets skyrocket. And every time that we don't do it, it becomes a big problem. And it's usually a lasting problem because there's going to be callbacks or one-star reviews. You screwed me over. Your guy was here 2 minutes.
Do they see that? Do you show your technicians whenever you failed as a company?
100%. Yeah. And I mean, one-star reviews, that's a level 5 emergency when we get a one-star review. I mean, yeah, I mean that every guy in our company knows if I get a one-star review, I am in deep doo-doo. Now, not
don't
to say
go see
that,
Vince.
What?
Don't go see Vince, like avoiding for the next week or two.
Right. Well, and all the reviews come to my phone instantly, so I know before anybody in the company knows. So they are fully aware that is not acceptable.
So Vince, I know we have some compact episodes here. So you joined COR about 5 years ago?
4
years ago. So you're about a $1 million garage door company.
Well, like late 18.
Okay. So what does that look like today?
The garage door side?
Just the entire company. What does the company look like as far as departments, revenue? What does that look like today?
So garage doors will probably be in the $7 million range.
So you didn't just grow the HVAC and plumbing like
it wasn't just grow their top line revenue.
So you grew it through the existing.
Oh yeah. Well, so garage doors went from 1 to 3 like right out of the gate, and then we've grown it to, like I said, it'll probably be around 7 million this year. Of course, all the other, I mean, I do HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. HVAC this year will probably do 9 or 10 million or so. Plumbing and electrical bring up, the remaining portion of that.
Wow, and that's in 3 years, 4 years.
A little over 4 years.
What do you think? Because I know I talked to you out here real quick, and we were talking about Trainual, and you're talking about processes and SOPs. How important has that been for your company as you guys have grown to have that stuff?
It's an ongoing thing because I mean, when we first started, it was like 10 sheets of paper. Here's the whole everything, and it was pull more stuff out of the den, stuck our name on the top, and the den.
You're right.
Yeah. So
the platform that CEO Warrior uses.
Yeah. So we pull the information out of there, stamp our name on it, and here's the process.
Right.
So then we refine it a little more and create it. Well, then once you get all these processes created, so then they got stuck in a book, and then they're gone, and then we recreate them again, and that's an ongoing issue. Of course, I mean, we use Trainual now, and that's helped a lot. But we've used several different platforms to try to keep all that stuff organized, keep it in one place where people can find it. But every year it's an ongoing deal because I mean, at the rate that we've grown and the number of people, and then we got multiple locations, and it's a challenge for sure.
Yeah. So last question that I'll ask, and what's been the biggest pain point that you've had in business, and how have you overcome it, or have you overcome it?
Well, I mean, well, I mean, as we grow, new pain points seem to happen every day.
Yeah.
That new. I mean, there's challenges that we have now that I never dreamed that we would even have a challenge. I mean, just before I walked into this podcast, the guys were asking about trucks, and they're like, "Hey, you were here a year ago, and you said you ordered, 50 truck or 30 trucks," and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't even have them all yet." So, but. And then we ordered 8 or 75 more for next year already.
Dang.
So, I mean, that's anticipated growth. So, I mean, like that, those problems, I mean, they're big problems when you need the trucks.
Right.
But if someone told me 5 years ago that I'd be worried about getting 2 trucks, maybe. But I mean, the thought of ever even needing 80 trucks would be, was not even fathomable. I mean, honestly, I was sitting right there in the front row when I joined here, and I had my wife with me, and I was like, man, if we ever got to 3 million, I mean, it's over.
Just retire.
We're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
We're set. Yeah. And now I'm like, we're expecting to grow more than that every year. I mean, I'm going to be really upset if we don't achieve those kind of marks on an annual basis. But it's just everything just gets in such big volume and what you're doing. I mean, those are probably big. Well, I guess some of it's like the job that I have is completely changed, because I don't, on a day-to-day basis, I'm not really involved in anything in terms of selling anything. It's really more just looking, okay, how did we do yesterday? What kind of numbers did we sell? What kind of margins were we at? Why do we have 20 opportunities and we closed 2? Why,
Do you feel like you've lost connection with people because of that? Because that's what you're looking at now?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt you will.
Yeah.
I mean, we're up to about 130 employees, and that's another thing. I mean, if you ever told me that I was going to walk in my building and not know the names of 20 people in there, I'm like, yeah. And now I'm like, who's that?
They've been working here a year.
Right. Yeah. Now, if they've been there a year, I
just
know them.
kidding.
But yeah, I mean, we have. It's not uncommon to walk in and there'll be 3 people onboarding in one day. I mean,
it's
and
like, that guy's name's James. He's been here for a
right,
while.
yeah, I forget it.
Cool, Vince. I really appreciate you hanging out with
Well,
us.
I thank you for having me.
Yeah,
on.
thanks for coming on,
man.
man. This is
Absolutely.
great.